朝、
Huh?
ちょっとお願いがあるんだけど、
Mm-hmm.
Teach me English
Huh?
for 2 years.
Okay, well, first, let's work on how you ask for favors in English, okay? 皆さん、こんにちは。IU-Connectの朝です。
京子です。
マサです。
今日は英語でお願いする方法を学びましょう。So, Kyoko, it's important to focus on phrases when you are learning how to ask for favors in English. But before that, it's important to get the concept down. So let me explain that first. So when you ask a favor to someone, that favor that you're asking is kind of like a little bit of an impact to someone. And so if it's a small thing like, oh, can I ask you a question? Then it's okay. But if you're asking me a big ask, then it's kind of heavy. And so what we need to do is we need to put a lot of layers around it. Does that concept of layers make sense?
玉ねぎみたいだね。
Okay. So the key is you want to ask them, but around asking them, you want to put many layers. So does that make sense?
マトリョーシカみたいですね。
What?
マトリョーシカってこう何個もあって、
Oh,
なんか出てくるやつ。
a matryoshka doll. So at the very center of it, that first matryoshka doll is the ask, is actually asking for the favor. So let's start there. So normally when you ask something or when you want to ask something, it's pretty simple. Probably you know already. You can say, can I, could you, can you, would you, that kind of thing.
could ってどう would ってどう違うの？
That's a good question, man. Actually, they're really similar. So in most cases, could and would pretty much feel the same. They're both used to be a little bit more polite, but there are a couple of differences. The first big difference is that you can say, could I do something? But you can't say, would I do something? Now, the reason for that is because could means is it possible, but would refers to 誰かの意思. And so if you say, would you do this? It means like, oh, do you want to do this? Do you have a feeling that you want to do this? But if you say, would I do this? Well, you're asking yourself about your feeling, but you already know your feeling, so why are you asking? That's why you can say, could I, but you can't say, would I, something. But there's one thing I want you to be careful of too. So actually, a lot of times native speakers, when they're angry, they say would a lot of the time. So when they say like, would you be quiet? They're not actually saying, 静かにしてください. They're actually saying, お前うるさいんだよ. So you gotta be careful with that sometimes. So can you try and ask me?
Would you teach me English?
Yeah, I can a little bit.
Oh, great. Can you teach me English a lot?
Well, in that case, that's a little bit of a heavier ask, so we need to put some makura kotoba around that first. If it's something simple, then you don't need to have any sort of makura kotoba or words to soften the request. But if you're going to ask something heavier, we need to add something to make it sound softer to the other person. So if you just want to ask me one question, it's okay. But if you want to ask a lot of questions or you want me to teach you a lot, then we need to change how you ask something. So there are three main ways you can soften a request. Before you ask, you can say, I was wondering, nani nani. So what you're doing here is you are saying you've been thinking about something from before, and so they're kind of prepared for you to ask them something. So this is a way to show that it's been on your mind a lot. It's kind of important to you, so they can understand, they can prepare for that heavier ask.
Arthur, I was wondering, can you teach me English?
Yeah, sure. And actually, if you want to make it a little bit more polite, you can say, I was wondering if you could, or if you can, if you could teach me. その if を入れるとより丁寧になります。
I was wondering if you can teach me English?
Great. Now, the second phrase is, I have a favor to ask. So in this one is kind of similar to saying like, お願いがあるんだけど, and it's showing them that you have something to ask and they can prepare for it. So in this case, you just say, I have a favor to ask. Can you, nani nani?
I have a favor to ask. Could you teach me English?
Great. And then the final phrase is, would it be possible for you to teach me? It's a pretty formal way to say it. Now, in Japanese, when you want to be formal, you change the words to become more polite. But in English, you tend to just add a lot of words, which is why it's so long.
Would it be possible for you to teach me English?
Great! Now, the great thing about these makura kotoba, about these phrases, is that you don't have to just use one. You can use them all together at once.
Hey Arthur,
Yeah?
I was wondering, I have a favor to ask you.
Yeah?
If you can teach me English?
Dude, you're almost close. Don't worry. I know it's really long. We can practice another time. So now we've learned how to soften the ask, but sometimes you want to ask something that's pretty heavy. So maybe in your case, it's not just, can you teach me English? It's, can you teach me English for 5 months? Can you teach me English for 2 years? Can you teach me English forever? Or something like that. Sorry, I can't do that. But yeah, so when it becomes something big like that, another thing you can do is to take the pressure off. If someone comes to you and asks you for a favor, you feel pressure that you want to say yes, but you can take that pressure away. You know, having that pressure doesn't feel very good. We can take that away so the person feels better. Now, how do you do that? There are 4 main sentences. The first one is, I understand if it's too much, but. The second one is, no pressure, but. The third one is, if not, it's okay, but. And the final one is, I'm sorry to ask, but.
あ、そのバットってさ、お尻って意味じゃないよね。
Yeah, right. We're talking about the but with one T, the kedo っていう意味です。
あ、そっちのバット。
Yeah, exactly. ちょっと危ない, not this one.
あ、これらのフレーズってどうやって使い分けるの？
You know, there's not a specific rule, and a lot of times when my students ask me about tsukaiwake, to be honest, it depends on the other person. It depends on how the person feels. Everyone's feeling is different. There's not one rule of tsukaiwake in most cases. But here, we can split these phrases into 2 groups. No pressure, but, or it's okay if you can't, but those 2 phrases tend to be more casual. So if you're with friends and you want to keep the shinmitsukan with those friends, then you want to use those 2 phrases. But the other 2 phrases, I understand if it's too much, but, or I'm sorry to ask, but, those tend to be a little bit more formal, and you can use those with people who are not your friends. But I think out of all of that, no pressure is the one that's the most casual. So you don't want to say no pressure in a business setting. Now, when you ask someone for a favor and they say yes, how do you respond?
I'm so happy.
Yeah, so you can say that. You can say, thanks, I'm so happy. I recommend saying, thanks, it means a lot. You could also say, thanks, I owe you one.
Thanks, I owe you one.
Yeah. Now, here's the question though. What if they say no? What if you ask me to teach you English and I say no? It's actually not that bad. The important thing is to take the pressure off of the situation. You can just say, it's okay, no worries. Or you can say, it's all right, no problem. Or you can say, I understand, no problem.
I was wondering, could you teach me English?
You know, I'd like to, but I'm kind of busy now. I can't, sorry.
It's okay, no worries.
Okay, thanks. So, Kyoko, we learned a lot today about onegai suru hoho. Now, I'm sure you want to practice the pronunciation and you want to be able to use this in the real world. And actually, you can get Hatsuon Renshu and Jisen Kadai in our Sekai to Tsunaгаru movement area. So, if you're fine with just learning the information here, you can just watch this YouTube video. But if you want to take the next step and really use what you learn, I recommend you check that out. All right, guys, well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, English is a tool for communication to connect with the world. もしあなたは英語を勉強しても外国人と対面したら頭が真っ白になって言葉が出てこないということを経験したことがある場合は、ぜひ IU-Connect をご覧ください。IU-Connect のミッションは日本人が英語を学ぶだけではなく、実際に使える英語力を身につけて世界に飛び出していただくことです。そのためにいろんなコンテンツ、いろんな活動がありますので、詳しくは You can click up here or you can click the link in the description box below. As always, enjoy your English adventures. 一緒に世界とつながりましょう So I'm going to say 皆さんこんにちは、朝です。You'll say マサです。
マサです。
Yeah. Yeah. 笑顔でね。Yeah. Yeah.
イエーイ。